live and welcome everyone. I'm very excited. Welcome to the Impact Tribe Live. This is where we meet, greet, and learn about leaders who are positively impacting the world. We are streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. My name is Ashley Bright, the Message Fixer. I'm your host today, and I am welcoming the amazing Lyndsay Dowd, who I was going to introduce as the founder of Heartbeat for Hire.
I still am.
Still are. Lyndsay has devoted her career to transforming leadership through building irresistible culture and modern leadership practices to get the best results from their teams. Lyndsay, thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Ash. I'm so excited to do this with you.
It's been a long time in coming. I feel like we chatted months and months and months ago. Yeah. And then we've been sort of just bumping into each other all over social media ever since then. And finally, we are here, October 3rd. It's happening. So thank you for being here. And I don't want to steal any thunder, but I know that there's some things going on with you that may change some of what we talk about today. So
yeah, I mean, the nexus of who I am is the same. The heart-led leadership is still totally my purpose. But I just accepted an opportunity as the Chief Revenue Officer for a company called Intree. And we will talk about that, and I'll tell you why and what that's all about. But I don't want to wreck your flow. So you guide me the way you want to go. And
all right, well, hold on just a sec here. So I'm gonna make some quick on-the-fly edits. Because that's how we roll here. And I've always wanted to do a breaking news scroller. So there we go. Breaking news. Lyndsay Dowd is the new Chief Revenue Officer at Intree. So
that's so cool.
But still all about heart leadership. So with that, maybe we should start with kind of where you're coming from, the way you approach leadership, and then what has led to or what you're going to be doing in your new role as Chief Revenue Officer.
Well, the best way to start is to share my story, and that will hopefully give people the clues they need to understand why I made why I'm making the transition I did. So I spent a long time in corporate America, over 25 years, and 23 of those years were climbing the ranks at IBM. And I come from a really big blue legacy. My family put in over 105 years there. So it was my father, my father-in-law, my husband, my mother-in-law, and me. And I was the last one. And I was there for 23 years. I had a really decorated ride. I got to manage some big sales teams, and I learned incredible pedigree and incredible lessons, and had some amazing leaders and had some not so amazing leaders. And at the end of 23 years, I was ready for a change. So another company sought me out and said, hey, would you come lead a sales team for us? And I said, I would love to. So I packed up my big blue legacy and off I went. And in 6 months, they fired me.
Ooh, ouch.
And I was gutted. I was devastated. I was sure I was the only executive on earth to ever be fired. I thought no one would ever want to work with me again. And, what a scarlet letter I must have that everyone can see. And what it really came down to was that leader that hired me told me things that it was going to be, and it wasn't. And she wanted a micromanager, and I was never going to be that. No one could ever make me be that. And so I couldn't do the things that she thought was important. She knew she had no, what I call power skills. We don't use soft skills around here. So anyone listening knows their power skills. So she had very limited ones, and mine are pretty strong. And so it wasn't a culture fit. It wasn't a good match. And I didn't know that that's how it was going to roll. But at the end of that month of licking my wounds, I asked myself 3 important questions. What am I good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? And I knew how to build modern leaders, and I knew how to create irresistible culture that drives results. And so I didn't see any jobs out there that had those kinds of things in it. So I started my own company, and that was called Heartbeat for Hire. And I started speaking, and I started coaching, and I started working with C-suites and companies on getting the best out of their leaders. And I started a podcast, and I wrote a couple of books, and that was in the last 2.5 years. And along the way, I got asked to do a lot of cool things, and one of which was in July. In July, I was asked to be one of the experts in this career Catalyst boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And my role in that was going to be working on your unique value prop. So, how do you tell your story? I also got to work on the LinkedIn profiles because I learned a lot about LinkedIn on this journey. So, I got to help people optimize those and create their banners and their headlines. But in that boot camp, you also had people that worked on resumes, you had recruiters, we had it's really, really comprehensive, mental health experts, salary negotiation tips, etc. And so the CEO of that company, her name's Jennifer Sethry, she started this all. She was the visionary behind it, and we stayed pretty close. And she just said, I want to grow this. We have a much bigger opportunity. And I said, yeah, I'm all in. And so as of this week, I am the new CRO for Entry. And
Woo.
it's a massive thing. We're going to be doing some outplacement alternatives for companies that are laying off people because
Yeah.
the services they have to provide. We'll continue to do these boot camps for job seekers, but we've got like 9 revenue streams we've identified. So it's going to be really, really exciting.
That is amazing. Congratulations. It must be so exciting to be recognized and appreciated for kind of what you've built
Yeah.
since that moment 2.5 years ago, where and I'm sure many people listening, I've been there as well, that feeling of like, I got fired.
Yeah.
What do I do now? And it
Well,
can be
whether you're
devastating.
fired or you're laid off
Hmm.
or, you've been resourced or whatever words you want to use, anybody that says don't take it personally, I'm sorry, take a walk
I
because
was
this
going to
is
say,
personal. And when you're spending the majority of your time doing a job that you have some pride in, it is
hmm,
personal. There's no
absolutely.
way you can't feel it. And how you come back from that is really important. And that's a space where I've been able to coach a lot of people in the last 2.5 years. And it's not such a departure from where I've been, but yeah, it's fun to look back. And when I run into my old Big Blue colleagues, they're like, what are you doing? You're all over the place. You're doing all these things. I just kind of chuckle. And it just you're really good at this. You're really good at visioning and seeing things for that, much bigger opportunities. And I don't know that I ever would have thought I could be an author or host a podcast or speak on big stages. I mean, I was speaking on big stages at IBM, but not in this way.
Yeah.
And now this is who I hang with. So it's pretty rewarding.
It's very cool, and it's I think it's something that we're seeing more and more of, and I'm so excited to see people that are, and I think definitely after the pandemic, people realizing that, you know what, I have a lot of value and a lot of joy in certain things that I do and not in others.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a way that I can sort of double down on those things. And it's been so nice to find people like you and others
Yeah.
that are, they're almost creating roles that
Yeah.
don't exist because there's a need and things are changing. And it's exciting, but it's also, you see such a need for it because every other day I'm encountering people that are in
Yeah.
that old situation where it's like, I hate this, I don't like this, I'm bitter about that, or this is
Yeah.
happening. And so it's wonderful to see others like you that are out
Well,
there like saying, hey, there's
there's something
opportunity.
there's something to be said for designing your life. And I will not say it's easy. And I
Mm,
don't want anyone to go and leave their corporate job and just go, I wanted to go do what she's doing. Listen, if you've got money coming in, keep the money coming in while you're figuring it out.
yep.
Please don't jump ship. It's really hard to do this knowing it's the only thing you've got going on. So you want that money to help fortify whatever it is you're
Yep.
about to do. But it's hard. And you have to surround yourself with people who want to see you win. And that was something I really had to learn. I mistook my company for my community,
Hmm.
and I didn't understand how important that would be. And I talk about the Outlier Project a lot. You had Dave Wan on last week, who's a fellow outlier, and I think there's a few maybe watching. But those people have become my ride or dies. They've become my gut check people. They've become my ass kickers, and they're the ones who they know what I'm capable of. And I didn't have that with my childhood friends. I don't have that with my parents or my family. My family's kind of like, I don't know what you're doing, but
Yep.
are we making a lot of money? That's just what we want to know. But you have to find those people that lift you up and believe in you, especially when you don't believe in yourself. And it's
Absolutely.
so
And speaking of the Outlier Project, Dave One just joined us. Hey,
important.
Dave. Thanks for
Hey,
being here. I had Dave on just a few weeks ago, and he is another outlier that is just
yes,
filled with incredible amounts of wisdom
yes,
and
it is.
curiosity and a joy for helping people find their path and clear away, as we talked about,
Okay.
some of the things that are in your background that make you feel like you can't do certain things. I was on a call yesterday with the Iron Tribe, which many of which you know,
Yes, a
and
lot of outliers in there.
a great quote that I took away from yesterday's call was, something is everything. And what that meant is that, don't focus on
Right.
sort of that failure. That doesn't define you. When you're sort of
True.
charting your new course, there's going to be those ups and downs. There's going to be those moments of quote unquote failure. But the fact that you have gone out on your own and you are doing something and you are trying to pursue what you want to be doing, that is something. And even if you're not making tons of money or changing
Yeah.
hearts and minds like in the millions, you're doing something. And
Well,
that's
and
incredibly important.
you tickled my brain on something, and that is, what is the definition of success? And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people knee jerk to money. You're successful. If you're making big money, you're
Yep.
successful. I can't tell you the amount of people that I have had on my show who have told me, Lyndsay, I was making millions. I
Hmm.
was a billionaire. I was so unhappy. So when you're thinking about success, what does that look like? How do you feel every day? Are you excited to sit in
Hmm.
that chair and connect with all these people you love because you're working with purpose, or are you just making money? I mean, I've written 2 books. I have 118 episodes out of my show. That feels like success. I
It's
have friends
pretty
like
awesome.
you. That
Yep.
feels like success. My brand is recognized. That feels like success. So it's not just one thing. There's a lot of things. And I think people need to remind themselves, when they achieve these moments, when you do your first podcast, when you get your first thing published, those are exciting. Those are fantastic. And
Absolutely.
you got to
It's all about
celebrate.
those
Yeah,
small wins that lead to
they
that
add up.
momentum. And you're right. I mean, I've said this in Iron Tribe many times, that as a man in our society, there is this focus unnecessarily on money. I mean, Dave One will talk about this at length,
Yeah.
that is what we think defines us. And obviously, there's a practicality that you need to be able to support yourself and your family and things like that. But
Yes.
that should not be a driving factor. That's not going to make you happy
No.
ultimately. And I mean, as you just said, like, having, how many episodes have you got now? 118?
118, and I'm
Woohoo!
scheduled into February, almost March of next year.
Awesome. Well, this is episode 13, and I am celebrating the fact that I started it and I'm continuing it,
I'll
and it
take
just
it.
brings me so much joy.
That's as
And
long as it does, you keep doing it.
exactly. And that was, I remember when I was going to start it, I was chatting with my wife, and I was sort of trying to be strategic about it and all these other things that our partners have so much wisdom, or at least mine does. She was like, "Stop overthinking this.
Yeah,
It's just about joy and
yeah,
conversations and
yeah.
interesting people. Don't
Good.
make it be anything more than that."
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I think, when you're putting out that kind of tone, that's what you attract. So it's good. And keep on doing it, man. It's gonna
Thank you.
morph, it's gonna change. You're gonna, hone in on different things and strengthen different things. I did.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
it
it's been a
evolves.
tremendous learning experience for me just doing this, because I come from a design background, and anyone out there that's a designer or a creative, there's a level of perfectionism that sort of seems to come with that role.
Oh yeah.
And if I was to apply that to being an entrepreneur, I would never do anything because
Oh
it's
God.
never ready.
Yeah.
And this
No,
has been
can't.
wonderful to help me see that, like, yeah, if I look back a couple episodes, I would have done this differently, or I would have done that differently. But,
Well, something
it's a
you just said
journey.
right there, I love. And it's better to do it than to be perfect.
Hmm.
And to me, I thought the same when I started my show. I'm like, I'm not a journalist. Like, what am I going to do? Should my microphone be like right here, or should it be like over? Like, you don't know, and you learn. But the fact that I tell the story that I got fired, I don't think, you tell me, but I don't think people look at that and be like, well, she's terrible. She got fired. She doesn't have any value to the world. Well, I use that story because it's part of my journey. It's part of my power, and it helps people connect with me and relate. Yeah, life is messy. I don't have all the answers. I'm not doing everything right. I'm sure my funnel sucks. I mean, there's always something you got to work on. There's always parts to your business that you're not the best at. And that's just, you just have to accept it. Most of the bad stuff you hire out and you let people handle it. But yeah, it's not, entrepreneurship is not a straight line. It's like, super squiggly, and you just
Absolutely.
got to
It's
stay open and
yeah, it's
not
not
sweat
about
the small
perfection,
stuff.
it's about
Mhm.
progress.
Yeah.
Just keep moving forward and you're going to learn something. And what I've appreciated, I don't know if it's just that I'm at this point in my life where I notice these things, or it's where we've kind of moved to with media a little bit, but I'm seeing more and more people that are sharing that backstory. There's kind of like, yeah, there's the facade that's out there about like everything's
Yeah.
perfect and wonderful, but they're starting to share that backstory and that struggle and that challenge. And I've really appreciated hearing that from, average Joes as well as like celebrities and high profile individuals, because it kind of grounds us all as like, hey, we're all human beings.
Well,
Okay,
you
we've all
said it,
struggled, we're all learning.
Ash. That is what makes people memorable.
Hmm.
And when I'm working with job seekers and we're trying to work with them on their unique value prop. So what's your story? I'll give you a really good example. I had a client in our July boot camp, and he had moved from finance into pharma. And I said, is there anything that made you take that move? Like, what was the
Mm.
reason? Because that's a weird jump. And
Yep.
he's like, oh no, a really specific reason. And I said, well, tell me. He said, well, we were pregnant with our first child, and we did the genetic test, and it came back and they told us that they thought our child might have Down syndrome.
Mm.
And we wouldn't know for 72 hours if that was the case. And
Wow.
those 72 hours were so painful and so terrible and so, stressful. I didn't want anybody to ever go through that again. And I didn't
Mm.
want people to wait for medicine for like a time frame that they needed it again. And that's what motivated me to move into pharma. I'm like, that's your story.
That's huge.
That's
Yeah.
so good. And he was
Hmm.
like, "That's my story? Oh my god,
Yeah.
I've never told that story before." I'm like, "Yes, but you know what? If you tell that when you're interviewing, no one will forget that."
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so powerful, and I think it's I work with a lot of business leaders as well, and there's often that sense as a business leader that you are supposed to know all the answers. You're supposed to be stoic. You're supposed to kind
No.
of be strong, and there are aspects where that's important, or times when that's important. But there's also that sense of transparency and honesty and
Yeah.
authenticity around your backstory
Yes.
that is going to motivate and build trust with the
Mhm.
people that you're leading. And it's amazing how you get people like you just said that they either say like, well, I don't really have a story, or
Mhm.
then you ask two or three questions and there's like, well, where do I start? You just told me three that are great.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
you
I mean
said
that's what makes
something
us who we are.
you said something so important, and I wanted to give this because we want to be actionable, right? We want to provide
Sure.
value here. So
Yeah.
the most important thing you can do as a new leader is to go on a listening tour.
Mm.
And this is where a lot of leaders screw up. They think that, okay, you've been given this title, you have this new power, there's a new sheriff in town. But what you need to do is you need to go around and ask everybody, tell me what's going on here. What's working? What's not working? If you could wave a wand, what would be the thing you would fix? Who
Hmm.
do I have to watch out for, both good and bad? Tell me the politics. First of all, when you do that, you're building trust. You're
Yep.
saying, I'm not here to change everything. And you're saying, you've been doing it longer than I have. You know things that I need to know. So tell me what would be super helpful for you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, that adage that like if you're the first person in the room speaking and you're the leader, you've already made a mistake. You need to be listening to what everyone else is saying, because there's so much value that you can be gaining from that can then help you navigate through this space.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I'm curious what, obviously you're working with leaders all the time.
Yeah.
Are there a couple kind of, top level things that you see all the time, or is everyone kind of a little unique in how they're struggling, or how they're seeing an opportunity?
So there's this undercurrent of change that's happening, and it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It started with the Great Resignation during the pandemic. We saw masses of people saying, "I'm not going to put up with this crap anymore. I'm not going to be treated this way. You need to do better by me."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some companies listened and made some changes, and some companies didn't. And the challenge that you have with the really poor leaders, they're usually great. They manage up really well, so they cover their tracks. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard for senior leaders to see if there's problems going on. But one of the things that I teach leaders to ask is, how can I be the best leader for you? And
Mm-hmm.
when you ask that question, it's a humbling question, because you're saying, I don't know everything, but you're going to get different answers from everyone you ask. And when you
Yep.
can teach an organization to do this across the board, and you can ask, okay, so what's going on your team? Who's a flight risk? What do we have to worry about? You have a different look at your people.
Mm-hmm.
And any leader that tells me I don't have time for one-on-ones, you're in the wrong job.
I was gonna
And I
say.
don't mean just forecast calls. Those are important. That's business. But you need to know who your people are. You need to be able to advocate for them. And you need to spend time investing in them and getting to know them, because the leaders that do it right are the ones that are creating psychological safety. They're building trust. They're inspiring their teams, and they're giving people autonomy. And this
Mm-hmm.
whole movement of get in the office or else is a pale, male, and stale. Yes, it's all men that are doing this.
Yep.
There are very few women that are doing this. It is a pale, male, and stale, you know, thing they are doing to say this is the only way. Well, that's crap. And I will tell you, if I say to anyone on my team, what do you need? What do you need right now? Do you need more time in the afternoon so you can pick up your kids? Or like, what is it that you struggle with the most? How can I help you do the best job? If I give them flexibility, I don't care if they're working at 5 in the morning. I don't care if they're working at 6 o'clock at night. If they're getting their stuff done, why does that matter? Why does that matter? Now, if they can't attend regular team calls or things that I need them to be, we have to have that conversation.
Yep.
But you want to give people the space to do the jobs they were hired for. And I think there's a larger conversation happening about that. And I think this old style of intimidation and fear and belittling and embarrassing, it's kind of going the way of the dodo bird. So at least that's my hope. There's always going to be those bad ones out there, but I think with enough of us talking about it, perhaps we can change the tide.
Of course. I mean, this idea that you're supposed to have control, and fear. And I mean, I've learned so much being a parent. But when my kids were little and it was bath time and there was chaos, and I would be shouting, and my wife turned to me and she said, "They don't understand what you're talking about. You're just yelling." And then we talked about it was this illusion as a parent that I had, and I think many leaders have this, that you are supposed to be in control.
No.
No, you want to be, as you said, I mean, multiple people here. Mark Holden just chimed in, listening to her is smart. We've got a couple of people saying listening to her is invaluable.
So good.
Listen. And I have learned so much as a parent from listening, active listening with my children. And it's sort of funny how often I see these parallels between being a parent and being a good leader in an organization.
I
They're
mean,
very similar skill sets.
I'm a mom to teenage twins. They're 16, and they don't want me to fix stuff. They want to be
Mm.
heard. They want to vent. And I also need to know, like, if I pick them up from school, because they're not driving yet, if I pick them up from school, like sometimes they don't have the bandwidth to chat.
Exactly.
And asking them, like, so tell me about your day. They
What's
just
going
want
on
to
with
be
this grade?
quiet.
What happened with that class?
They've
What's
been
going on with this?
talking all day long, and they've been listening all day long. They're exhausted. And it's
Yep.
so hard to be like, well, I'm not getting this time with them. Am I being a really crappy parent because like no one's saying anything? Well, sometimes they just need to know you're there. And that's
Exactly.
okay. And
Yeah.
same with the people that you work with. Are you doing okay? How can I support you? What do you need right now?
Hmm.
And sometimes people have never been asked that and they don't know how to answer it. But when you start making it a part of your regular conversations, okay, I need a little space to do this job, or hey, I'm really good at this. Can I have a chance to
Hmm.
do a project on that?
Absolutely. So you obviously you're very steeped in leadership and
Yes.
business and culture. I'm curious now, what sort of things does Lyndsay do to find joy,
Mm,
to recharge, to get away from it all? And
yeah,
I get the sense you get a lot of joy from what you do for a
I do.
living, which is wonderful and what
I
this
do.
is all about. But I'm curious, outside of work, what do you do and what brings you joy?
Well, we just mentioned the Outlier Project, and I just came back from the retreat, which was like life changing and incredible. And that community has been completely life changing. I collect people, so I have a
Mm.
lot of people in my life, and I love to feed into them and nurture those relationships. And they're all over the world. I love to travel. As you heard, I have kids, so we do a lot of forced family fun. And I've got this little thing right here who sometimes makes appearances. So
What a
this is
cutie.
Poppy Long Sausage. She's big on Instagram.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
and yeah, I am really content doing this work, and both my Heartbeat for Higher stuff and this entry chapter I'm starting. And so all of it feels pretty exciting. And yeah, there's still stuff I don't like to do, but yeah, that's kind of a thumbnail sketch. I mean, a lot of it's kind of work related, but work is fun for me.
Yeah, well, that's what's wonderful. I think there is this old notion that like, well, work is work, and work's not supposed to be fun. But I think as you're illustrating here, and I think many people are seeing that, yeah, there's challenges. There is aspects of work that are a challenge, but if you can find joy and
Yeah.
find those moments that you just light you up and keep you going, that is more valuable than any amount of money.
And
And
listen, my definition of retirement is not stopping working.
no,
My definition of retirement is traveling and going to spend a month in the south of France or
hmm
a month in Thailand, or traveling, like, and if I have Wi-Fi, I can work anywhere. So like that's my version, my next chapter of retirement. But that's like once the kids are in college and we have a little
oh
more
yes,
freedom.
you'll get there. So
Um,
you mentioned that your kids aren't driving yet. I'm just going to hold this up here. This I don't know if you can see this. My
uh-huh.
son just this is his appointment to get his driver's license. He's already had his
We
learners for a
have our
while, so
permits, which is great, but we
yeah.
don't have
So
our Massachusetts has some really strict driving laws, so it takes a really long time for them to
okay,
actually be able to drive. So we're not there yet. So I'm doing a lot of white knuckling. Um,
I know that first moment when he's like, "See ya," and like gets in the car, it's gonna be a little terrifying.
Yep, yep, yep. And well, and my twins said, "Are we each getting a car?" I said, "Are you on glue?" No, you're sharing a car. So yeah, it's cute.
Exactly. So I'm curious, what are there some people in your past or in your life that are influential to you? And I'm curious what how they've influenced you and what you've gained from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some incredible people in my life currently who've been around for a long time, and a lot of people that are relatively new to my life who have made an incredible impact. I mean, we've talked about Outlier a bunch, but there's a few on the call. I heard Mark Holden, Dave Wan, but Andrew DeGood, Ricky Passanelli, who I know she introduced us,
Yes.
Carrie Lynn Shaw, Laurel Weirs are like very, very important to me. There's some of my old bosses who I adore and still look up to and still send Christmas cards to and still see each other socially. Um, I'm one of those people that, if you're in my life, you're probably in it for a while. And I love kind of going through chapters in our lives together. I still have all my summer camp friends, and we still do reunions. So I just find incredible joy of nurturing those relationships and helping them to grow. And you don't need everybody in your life all the time. Some people are here for a season and some people are here for longer, but yeah, there's a ton that I really lean on and find incredible value from, or take value.
Definitely. And I think, CK just jumped in and he's saying,
Yes, I
she
love him.
does collect people
I
and also
do.
that joy is a great conversation to have.
Yes.
CK is a regular in our Iron Tribe conversations and just brings lots of curiosity and value and insights. And
Yes.
so he is among many people I'm starting to get introduced to and collect that just fuel me and fire me up. And it's so valuable to have those around. I
Mm.
mean, Ricky, don't get me started on Ricky. Ricky is one of these people that we didn't talk for almost probably 20 years.
Hmm.
And then we reconnected, and it was like we'd never not talked. It was like we talked last week. It was great. So
We talk almost every day. And I will say, unless she's traveling, which she's usually the problem, she is so we're so in tune to each other, and we know how to lift each other up. We know how to kick each other's butts, and we also love introducing people into each other's lives. And you were one of those
well,
people.
thank you. And that's an important point there. You said, someone that can also kick your butt when you
Yeah,
need it. And
yeah.
that's important
I
as
mean,
well.
Andrew did good. I kicked his butt when we first met. And one of the things that we did, I asked him, I said, "Hey, what are you working on?" This is our first conversation. He's like, "Well, I just sold my company, but I think I want to start this men's mental health community. I'm bipolar. My wife is a shrink." I'm like, "Well, there's nobody better qualified. So, how are we starting?" And he kind of goes, "Wait, what'd you say?" I'm like, "No, no, we're doing this. This has to happen. I have nothing to do
Mm-hmm.
with it. I'm just going to kick your ass until it does." And so we talked every day for a month and a half, and Iron Tribe was born. And during that process, I said, "Hey, I need some help." And he said, "What do you need?" I said, "I need to talk to some CEOs for some market research.
Mm.
Do you have any that I don't know?" He said, "Yeah." He sends me 8, and 7 of them got on the phone right away. And one of them called him back and said, "I'm so glad I met Linz. That was great, but I need to talk to you. I need a CEO for one of my companies, and I want it to be
Ah,
you." And, you know, he didn't plan for that. I didn't
yep.
plan for that, but like, what a beautiful, beautiful outcome from a conversation,
I love it. This is the universe doing its thing. You
right?
got to like take the actions and put the energy out there, and then it all comes back in a whole variety of different ways. And well, I directly and really appreciate you kicking his butt because I have found so much value and made
I
so
love
many
it.
great friends from that group. And so thank you for that.
My pleasure. It's so needed. It's so needed. Men need a safe space
Absolutely.
to talk about everything that's bugging them. Women were given this gift that we can express ourselves freely or more freely,
Hmm.
and sharing our hearts comes a little easier. And sharing our insecurities comes a little easier. But having that safe space where you guys can do the same is so important. And everyone's taught, "Be tough, don't cry." I think that's kind of going away, or it's
I hope
changing.
so. I hope
So
so. And
yeah,
so I think, Andrew and many others like him starting to kind of have these conversations and create a safe
yeah,
space. And I mean myself, I feel much more comfortable being able to now talk to other men about this. And as you said, men need to learn to get over themselves and actually talk and realize that
yeah.
you're not alone. That's the biggest thing. You are not alone. And so well, we're a little bit over time, and so I want to be respectful. But I'm trying to decide which of these questions to ask last because I asked one of Ricky that really seemed applicable,
Okay.
um, and I'm not sure. But I'll throw this one at you. See what you said. But the one I
Whatever.
asked of Ricky was, "What's an insult that you've received that you're actually proud of?"
Oh, I can only imagine. No, I actually did hear what she said. What is an insult I received? uh, I call people out on their shit in the best way. Can I say shit? It's live. Sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
absolutely. It's already out
Um,
there.
I I can see people really quickly, and like Andrew, where he was like, just kind of, "I'm gonna just put this out there." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's do it." And it's alarming to people, and they're like, "Oh God, she saw me, and now she's making me do it."
Yep.
So
Yep.
I mean, it's a little in your face. Not everyone's ready for it, but I love doing it only because I know it's going to bring out the best in them.
Yes, I think it's
And
all about the intent.
yeah, I think people have to kind of buckle up if we're going to have a chat because I'm going to go there.
That's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to squeeze this in. We're over, but
Yeah.
what is the one thing that you want to be remembered for?
No, I mean, I ask this question on my show. I ask it a little differently, but um, that I made a difference in the working world. I mean, I want to make a difference in the big world, but the working world is a place where I know a thing or two, and
Mm-hmm.
I really want I've always wanted to help people be the best leaders. Now I really want to help people and job seekers. And when you're without a job or you're trying to get to that dream job, it's a stressful and scary time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can equip them to weather the storm in the best way, I'm here for that. But I want people to be like, she had a direct hand in my success. And I really love to see people win. So some people say that and they don't mean it. I really mean it. It gives me immense joy. So that's really what I would like. I would like people to be like, yeah, she gave me, whether it was a story on my show, a chat on a podcast, or concrete help on getting their next job or being a better leader. Totally cool for that.
Awesome. Well, I think on that point, we will end. But I want to say, anyone out there watching, or anyone who watches the replay, if you don't know Lyndsay, you need to connect, because if it hasn't been abundantly clear on this conversation, Lyndsay is amazing, filled with energy and insight and joy, and someone that you definitely will benefit from having in your orbit. I know I have immensely. And so I will say, Lyndsay, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everyone who is watching. If you've missed this and you want to share this, this will be available for replay on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And I would like to let everyone know about the next episode coming up Thursday, October 17th, when my special guest will be Randy Mulland,
Yay,
who is
Randy!
Yay! We all
Another
know.
outlier.
We're all connected, right? And if you don't know Randy, get in touch. Randy is the Chief Giving Officer at Give Big Strategies and founder of Go Big to Give Big. And Randy is a powerhouse and doing amazing things to help people, the community, and the world. And so I'm excited about that. So, Lyndsay, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful to chat with you. And yeah.
Thanks for having me, Ashley. You're the best.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thanks again. I appreciate everyone that chimed in the conversation. Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. Cheers.